I did a survey on YouTube a while ago asking if you invest your health savings account or HSA in an index fund or ETF, and only 29% of you invest your HSA, 13% of you use it for medical expenses, and 58% of you do not have the HSA. Now, the eligibility is really tricky because I didn't have my HSA until 2022. My wife, on the other hand, has always had her HSA, but she used it for medical expenses until I told her about the HSA investment strategy. You're welcome, honey. Now that we're married, combine our finances, and plan to file our taxes jointly, we can fully deduct our HSA contribution under the family plan. For 2022, we're deducting $7,300 from our total taxable income and investing the whole amount into an index fund. And we both have the high deductible health plan or HDHP through our employers. And here are some of the eligibility requirements you should know. You cannot be covered by any non-HDHP health plan, including your spouse's plan. You cannot be enrolled in Medicare or TRICARE. You cannot have received medical benefits from the VA for any non-service connected disabilities at any time during the previous 3 months. You cannot be claimed as a dependent on another person's tax return, and you cannot be enrolled in the General Purpose Healthcare Flexible Spending Account or FSA. However, you can be enrolled in the Limited Purpose FSA or HRA, and your annual deductible needs to be at least $1,400 for the individual plan or $2,800 for the family plan. And if you want to learn more about the eligibility requirements, I will put this document from the United Healthcare link in the description below. Our HSA is actually a higher priority than the Roth IRA because of its triple tax advantages. The Roth IRA contribution is our after-tax money, but the HSA contribution is our pre-tax money directly deducted from our paychecks, which lowers our taxes in every paycheck that we receive. In 10 years, we're projected to have about $140,000 invested in our HSA if the market performs a 10% average annual return. Just like your Roth IRA, you can take this HSA with you after you leave your employer. We still plan to contribute to our HSA during our early retirement. And with the increased contribution limits and adjusting inflation for the next 25 years, we should have over $1.5 million in our HSA by the time we reach age 65. You should check out this video about our HSA investment strategy, and I will link that video in the description below. If you're brand new to my channel, my name is Sai and welcome. So in this video, I'm going to talk about the top 5 Vanguard index funds to invest in inside our HSA. However, please keep in mind that some HSA brokers offer limited mutual funds, so please log into your HSA and find out what investment funds your broker offers you. And this video is not any form of financial advice, and I encourage you to do your own research before you decide to make any investment decisions. The HSA grows our investment tax-free, so we don't need to worry about dividend payments or capital gains inside our HSA during the tax season. What we do look for when we research an index fund is the long-term historical return, expense ratio, fund allocation, risk exposure, and any additional management fees. And when we look at the historical returns, we only look at 10 years or longer. We're not looking to touch our HSA until we reach our early retirement at 45 or our normal retirement age at 60. We will also prefer to invest in index funds over actively managed mutual funds for lower costs and better performances. The first index fund we love is the Vanguard S&P 500 Index Fund, ticker symbol VFIAX. If you prefer to invest in the ETF version of that is the ticker symbol VOO. The expense ratio is extremely low at 0.04%. So what that means is that for every $10,000 you invest, the fund charges you $4 annually, directly deducted from dividend and capital gains distributions. This fund tracks the 500 largest US companies, and it's what most investors use as the benchmark of the overall market performances. The S&P 500 Index Fund is down about 12% year to date as of today, which would be August 10th. But if you look at the 10-year historical returns, it's performed on average at 13% return annually and 7.3% annually for the last 22 years. This index fund also pays quarterly dividends at a 1.48% annual dividend yield. So if you invest $10,000 in this fund, then it's roughly $148 annual dividend payment, or $37 every quarter, depending on the stock price. Also keep in mind that over a quarter of this fund invests in the technology sector, 15% in healthcare, 10% in financials, and consumer discretionary. The S&P 500 index fund is extremely popular for people on the FIRE journey because of its diversified exposure to the US stock market, and it represents about 75 or 80% of the total value of the US equity market. By the way, you can get our free financial independence resources by visiting firesidechat.com/contact. You can also check out the Fireside Chat shop if you're looking to start your own YouTube channel, and I have all of my equipment at firesidechat.com/shopping. The second index fund we love is the Vanguard Growth Index Fund, ticker symbol VIGAX. If you prefer the ETF, the ticker symbol is VUG. And according to Vanguard, this fund invests in stocks of large US companies that tend to grow more quickly than the broad market. This fund is currently down 21% year to date, but it has performed a 15% average annual return in the last 10 years, or 7.6% in the last 22 years. So it has outperformed the S&P 500 by 2% in the last 10 years. The expense ratio is 0.05%, and it tracks 260 stocks inside this fund, and which is about half the S&P 500 index fund. The fund has a pretty big exposure in the tech sector at about 48% of the fund allocation. 22% of its fund invests in consumer discretionary, 10% in industrials, and about 8% in healthcare. Just keep in mind that if the tech sector gets hit hard in the market, then this fund will likely go down as well. This fund also pays 0.56% in annual dividend yield, or about $56 annually if you have $10,000 invested. If you're looking to grow your portfolio and be riskier in the tech sector, then this fund might be worth looking into. By the way, if you need help with your personal finances like budget, saving, and investments, you can schedule a free one-on-one 20-minute financial coaching session by visiting firesidechat.com/coaching. The third index fund we love is the Vanguard Real Estate Index Fund, ticker symbol VGSLX. If you prefer the ETF, the ticker symbol is VNQ. According to Vanguard, this fund invests in real estate investment trusts, also known as REITs. These REITs invest in office buildings, malls, hotels, and other real estate properties. I personally like investing in real estate because it doesn't perform the same as stocks or bonds in the stock market, and it has a higher dividend yield than the other index funds. The expense ratio for this fund is slightly higher at 0.12%, but it's still far cheaper than the actively managed mutual funds. The risk of this fund is that if the real estate market starts to tank, then this index fund will most likely decline as well. This fund tracks over 170 stocks or REITs, and it's exposed to about 38% in specialized REITs, 15% in residential REITs, 11% in industrial REITs, 10% in retail REITs, and 8% in healthcare REITs. This fund is down about 13% year to date, but it's performed an 8% average annual return in the last 10 years and 10% in the last 20 years. This fund also pays a 3% annual dividend yield, or a $300 annual dividend payment if you have $10,000 invested. If you want to be more exposed to the real estate sector, this index fund might be worth looking into. And the fourth index fund we love is the Vanguard High Dividend Yield Index Fund, ticker symbol VHYAX. If you prefer the ETF, the ticker symbol is VYM. According to Vanguard, this fund invests in stocks that pay larger than average dividends. And this index fund is more of an income-focused fund that's appropriate for investors who have a long-term investment goal and a tolerance for stock market volatility. The expense ratio for this fund is 0.08%, and it tracks 443 dividend-paying large-cap stocks. This fund invests in 20% financials, 15% healthcare, 13% consumer staples, and 8% utilities and consumer discretionary. It tracks dividend-paying stocks like Johnson & Johnson, ExxonMobil, Procter & Gamble, JP Morgan Chase, and Pfizer. This fund is down about 3% year to date, which is significantly lower than the other index funds I mentioned earlier. This index fund doesn't have a 10-year performance, so let me look at the ETF instead. Okay, the 10-year performance for VYM is about 11% average annual return and 8% average return for the last 15 years. The annual dividend yield is about 3%, and I personally like this index fund and ETF because when we have a risk-off market, this index fund doesn't perform as poorly as the growth funds. So if you're looking to diversify your portfolio with an income-based index fund, this one might be worth looking into. So far, I talked about growth, high growth, and income-based index funds. If you want to be riskier, take a look at the sector ETFs and small and medium cap index funds. And if you sort by the 10-year performances, Information Technology ETF, ticker symbol VGT, has the best performance with an almost 20% average annual return. Vanguard has other sector ETFs like consumer discretionary, healthcare, financials, industrials, and utilities. While these performances look promising, you should still be aware of the risk that you're putting your money into when you invest in the sector ETF. These sector ETFs have limited diversification options, and sometimes they have lower returns than the S&P 500 index. If the whole tech sector starts to collapse, then the tech sector ETF will most likely crumble as well. And if you still want to be riskier in the market, but you'd rather be more diversified, Vanguard has ETFs that track small and medium cap stocks like the S&P 600 small cap and S&P 400 medium cap index funds. Before you decide to be more risk on with these ETFs, you need to research how much of your portfolio should be exposed to the high risk, high reward market. And I probably wouldn't want to put too much in one sector ETF, but maybe spread out more evenly among those sectors. And with the HSA, I'm only going to pick one index fund or ETF because I'm already diversified in my taxable brokerage accounts, Roth IRA, and TSP. Again, this is not any specific financial advice. It's just what I would do with my investment portfolio. And if you want to know more about how to invest your Roth IRA and HSA, be sure to check out these two videos. So with that said, I appreciate you watching my video. Don't forget to subscribe, and I hope to see you in the next video. Have a good one.